Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this week's video we're visiting Eynsford Castle, situated in the Sevenoaks district of Kent. The ruined fortification is a rare example of an early Norman enclosure castle. So join us whilst we walk in the remains of one of the oldest forgotten stone castles, still standing proud in England. The inner bailey is reached using a bridge over the moat. The original castle bridge was constructed from wood, but this was soon rebuilt with stone facades and piers in the late medieval period, and then later replaced with an earthen bank, further improved in the early 19th century. The current timber bridge that we walk across dates from around the 1960s. A gatehouse originally protected the entrance, with an arched passageway made from Roman brick, flanked by guard rooms on either side, yet only the foundations now survive. The origins of this castle's life start off as an early form of Norman castle, known as an enclosure castle. It was defended by a strong wall, which surrounded the site made of timber. The earliest defensive structure was a timber watchtower on top of an artificial mound, which may date to before the Norman conquest of 1066. However, no evidence of this site can be seen today. The impressive stone curtain wall dominates the view in front of us. This curtain wall was built between 1085 and 1090 by owner William de Eynsford I. William was a loyal knight of King William the Conqueror, and the castle here would continue with a succession of William de Eynsfords till around 1261. In 1130 though, the castle would go through a fairly rapid expansion, with additional defences being added and buildings created within the curtain wall. The wall was elevated and a door tower was constructed to fortify the castle. The castle would consist of a simple enclosing wall around an inner cluster of buildings. The first structures that we walk around are the remains of the hall buildings. They were renovated throughout the 11th to early 12th century. The small building in front of us was the forebuilding, which was a structure that would extend in front of the hall and solar, used as an additional line of protection that would protect the entrance into these rooms. They may have also been used to keep guests waiting before entering inside the Great Grand Hall. This 12th century hall complex was built from flint stone and Roman tiles from nearby Roman villas such as Lullingstone. Now only the foundations of the hall complex survive, but we can still see some of the indication of the rooms and what they would have been used for, with thanks to the remains. Inside this room is the hall undercroft and cellar. The undercroft would be used for storage space of specialty foods, staples and supplies, and the cellar would store all of the all-important gallons of wine and beer that would be supplied upstairs when required for a feast or for public business. Inside the small room to our right was once the spiral staircase, with easy access up and down. Above us, as indicated by some of the remains, you might notice the holes in the walls. These were the gaps for the windows, in which they would have been filled with beautiful glass letting natural light in. But also having the large windows decorating a hall would give a slight suggestion of the wealth and prosperity that the owners had and wanted to portray. In the early 13th century, both the hall building and the forebuilding extension were completely gutted by a fire, so repairs and improvements were made soon after, and this would include the construction of a new kitchen just to the left of the hall, to serve the private apartments and the hall much quicker and more efficiently, keeping everything in just one place. Inside this part of the hall complex is the domestic chamber and private apartments of the castle. On its ground floor, as we walk down into it, is the solar undercroft. This room was a self-contained residential apartment, complete with its own entrance, a well, a garderobe, and a large fireplace. Usually this apartment would be used by a very important person to the castle, such as the bailiff. Above would have been the main accommodation for the lord and his family, filled with only the most comfortable of furnishings and luxuries. You can see from the size of the building that it would have been quite an impressive chamber and apartment. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it would have been in close proximity to the new castle kitchen for maximum comfort and convenience. The Eynsford family would hold the castle up until 1261, when it was then divided between two other families, the Kirkby and the de Creoles. But a disagreement over the ownership of the castle led to an act of damage in 1312, when Nicholas de Creole and his supporters broke in and vandalised the castle. Doors and windows were smashed and broken down, rooms and buildings damaged, and all of the castle's cattle were let loose, causing mayhem. Afterwards, the castle was never repaired or reoccupied, and it fell into ruins for over 700 years. One of the final buildings that we make our way to see is the Great Kitchen, built between 1150 and 1175. Just before was the castle's well. This was the castle's main water supply. Inside this great kitchen, you can only picture the meals that would have been created and cooked here. The lord and his family might have requested more expensive meats like venison, lamb and game to be served here, with savoury and sweet tarts and pastries for dessert. Strangely, the castle was left to be empty, and a period of decay was to set in. The estate was later sold to the owners of nearby Lullingstone Castle, the Hart family, in the early part of the 16th century. And in the 18th century, the heirs of this family used Eynsford as a base for hunting, where parts became stables and kennels. And later again in the 19th century, it was decided to proceed with preservation work, but it was all found to be too late. The ravages of time had won, and the once proud fortress would lay in desolate ruin. These ruins are now managed by English Heritage and open to us all, free to explore and experience at reasonable times. It won't take you long to explore the site, but there is plenty to see and marvel at if you do enjoy medieval castles. I think what makes it so interesting is that the enclosure layout is so different to those from a typical Motte and Bailey Norman plan. Mostly people use the castle nowadays to walk their dogs or just go for a simple wander. But I can imagine back in its day this castle was quite an unexpected, yet remarkable castle to live in. So that's it for this week, and we really hope that you've enjoyed our video here at Eynsford Castle, and that it's inspired you, if you are in the Kent area, to pop in and explore. please be sure to click that like button, hit the subscribe button and check off that notification bell to never miss another video. We would love to say a big thank you to our channel members and Patreons for all of their support. If you are interested in joining, please do have a look in our description box on ways to support us further. So we'll see you in the next one. Till next time.